Sure, I am happy. We'll do a little cooking lesson sometime. It'll be great. Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Rebecca. I'm thrilled to be here today. I just want to give a little overview about what AARP Elder Watch does, and then we're going to go into discussing what makes a person vulnerable to fraud victimization. So first off, AARP Elder Watch is a 20-year partnership with the Colorado Attorney General's office. We're very excited that we've made it 20 years. We do education and outreach across Colorado, which includes those presentations Steve mentioned. We have a volunteer staffed fraud victim support helpline. So if you ever have questions or need assistance with anything fraud, scam, elder exploitation related, we are here for you. You can give us a call at that number on the bottom. But we also have peer-to-peer financial counseling where we're happy to set you up with a trained volunteer that can assist with accessing benefits, helping with understanding credit reports and fixing any identity theft issues, and also finances after the loss of a loved one. And we're looking to expand into further areas this year, so stay tuned. Our number is 800-222-4444, option number 2. So again, if you ever need to get in touch with us, that is where you can find it. So first, we have to answer the question of why do we commonly see older adults as victims of scams? And this is because cognitive decline in decision-making as we age happens no matter what. There was a study that was released a few years ago that said 53 is the best age, 53 or 54 is the best age to make financial decisions. And then it kind of all goes downhill from there. So that cognitive decline is happening no matter if, there's history of it in our family or not. And it does make it harder to make decisions, especially when we'll get into it, especially when we have heightened emotions. Also, your generation tends to be much more trusting than mine, and will pick up the phone when it rings. Usually when my phone rings, I just press that red button or just completely ignore it until I get that voicemail, especially if I don't recognize the number. But you may pick up the phone when it rings or go to the door to open it when you're not expecting anyone. And it's okay to be rude when someone's trying to steal your identifying information or hard-earned money. Older adults also have more assets. So this is actually something that comes up a lot because we see the losses that older adults face when they're victims of fraud much higher than other age groups. But older adults actually are not the most victimized age group. That is the ages of 18 to 25. They just have a lot less assets to show. So that plays a role as well. Also, age can make you overconfident in beating the market. Some financial investment opportunity might look incredible and might really seem lucrative in beating that market. Unfortunately, I think most of the time we get beat by the market, but that's okay. It can be a part of that victimization. We're also facing an epidemic of social isolation, and it has just grown worse and worse as COVID has continued. In 2020, older Americans were victimized out of more than $3 billion at the hands of scammers. And yes, that is billion with a B, not million. It's a large chunk of change that is going out of older adults' pockets and into scammers' pockets every single year. So some vulnerabilities we see in fraud victims relate to who you are as a person and life experiences that you've had, right? So men are 19% more likely to end up a victim of an investment scam than women, likely because they have more experience in stock exchanges and dealing with the stock market. People with graduate degrees are more likely to be a victim of a scam as well. Younger people are more likely to be scam victims. However, older adults have more to lose, as I mentioned earlier. And these emotional hot button scams like diet pills, baldness cures, debt repair scams, and loan scams can get us really hooked, right? The emotion behind those scams, we really want to lose weight, or we really want to grow our hair back or be out of debt, can kind of distract us from the other decisions that we would make that might be more rational and get us as a part of that. And I always say there is a scam out there for everyone. Maybe one of the ways you might be vulnerable to a scam wasn't listed, but I can guarantee you there's a scam out there for you. There's one out there for me too. And it's all about knowing how to protect yourself. And lastly, we see repeat victimization, which makes people more vulnerable to being victims again. A lot of times in romance scams, power of attorney abuses, psychic scams, home repair scams, sweepstakes scams, and then overseas payment scams, which might be for a variety of reasons. So far this year, I think the most we've seen in terms of overseas payment would be with cryptocurrency. Those have been off the charts in the past 19 days of 2022. The persuasion tactics that scammers use are really important to understand, because if you understand what the persuasion tactics are, you can know how to fight against it. And one of those, phantom riches, right? Promising that you will get rich quick also, if you put in a little bit of money now, or a lot of money now, and then you will make it big at the end. You just have to hand over that fund and then you'll be okay. Source credibility, scammers appear to be trustworthy. Have you ever had a scammer pretend to be a social security agent or a sheriff? That source credibility helps a lot in scammers victimizing people. There's also social consensus. So if there's a high demand for something, there's more likely to be more scams around it because it must be good. Reciprocity, scammers victimize people by promising that they're doing this small favor right now, and then they'll pay you back. The scammer will pay you back by doing a larger favor for you in the end. And then scarcity. Fraudsters lead victims to believe that now is the opportunity. And this is a huge red flag. If someone on the phone, in a store, or at your door is pressuring you into buying right then and there, it's probably too good to be true. If they're saying, oh, it's going to be gone tomorrow, take a second and maybe wait till tomorrow and see if it's still there, because likely if it's not a scam, there will be more tomorrow. So the psychology of a scam is really that scammers are really good at what they do. And the ultimate goal of scammers is to get us into this heightened emotional state, get us into the ether. And basically what the ether means is this state of heightened emotions where fear, need, and excitement are the three biggest vulnerabilities we see. And under the ether, we're no longer able to access our logical thinking processes. So when I talk to fraud victims, a lot of times they'll say, I didn't even know what I was doing. It felt like I was hypnotized. I just kept going along with it, even though I knew it probably was a scam, and they're experiencing the effects of the ether. And
this is Officer Smith, and I'm calling from the San Diego County Sheriff's Office. It is my duty to inform you that because you failed to respond to jury duty notices, there are 2 warrants out for your arrest.
If you've ever heard that voicemail before or that over the phone, which I'm sure a lot of you have, I can't see a show of hands, but I'd have you raise your hand if we were in person. I hear that the beginning of that recording, been doing this work for 2 years and just dealing with fraud victimization, scam victimization every single day. And every time I hear that this is Officer Smith and I'm calling from the San Diego County Sheriff's Office, my heart starts to race. And that is how we begin to get under the ether, using this fear of, oh my gosh, I'm going to be arrested if I don't act right now. And then that completely blocks out any sort of rational decision we might have made, thinking, oh, it's a Saturday, the sheriff's office, they wouldn't be arresting people for jury notices. That is just not going to be at the forefront of your mind. And scammers are really good at what they do because they use these 3 tendencies. Narcissism, they believe that the rules don't apply to them. Antisocial tendencies, so they don't have empathy for others or suffer from sociopathy. They are bounded ethically a lot of times to the scam as well. And that can create issues with leaving. Maybe a family member helps out with it, or they need the money for, some costs, something like that. And then the last one, and we see this a lot, is that the scam starts small and then grows larger and larger, and the scammer is just too afraid to leave, but ends up harming lots of people in that process. So after people have been victimized by scams, a lot of times we don't use the best language for talking about that victimization. So I wanted to mention this really quickly and see if after getting this information, you start changing the way you talk about fraud and scam victims. Because a victim of a financial crime is as much of a victim as a violent crime. The psychology behind this is, it really shows the trauma responses are very similar, but we don't talk about them the same way. We say, she was duped, he fell for it, he got taken advantage of, they were scammed, and that puts all the blame on the victim. When we talk about violent crime victims, we say she was held at gunpoint, they were viciously attacked, he was brutally murdered, and then the blame is not on the victim, because scams are like someone walked into your house and stole all of your funds, or broke your computer. It's exactly like that, and we should view them as the same. And then just going to talk a little bit about the language of shame, and these are real quotes of people that have talked about scam victims, and clearly don't understand the psychology behind what's going on. And we can see very clearly the victim blaming that's going on here. Can't fathom the level of gullibility it would take for someone to send money to someone they have never met. It's just beyond my level of comprehension. That is the kindest way I can express what I'm thinking right now. Very sad, but really these women need their heads screwed on properly. Good God, where has common sense gone? I know people are lonely. Hell, I'm lonely, but I am not stupid. And this can be really damaging, especially if, you're someone that has been a victim and is trying to approach a friend and they're talking about another scam victim like that. It can be really hard to want to open up. And there's a ton of stigma around victimization when we're talking about frauds and scams. And so changing our language is just one part of changing the way victims feel and are supported in society. And then finally, if you have a loved one that is a victim of a fraud or scam, here are some tactics to try to get them out of that ether state. Have a conversation with them about how you're worried about their financial security and safety. Try to poke holes in the scammer's narrative. You can reverse image search photos that the scammer has sent, pointing out red flags. Oh, Social Security would never ask for money through a money order or a check, and explaining, exactly what happens when we are under the ether. One of the most important things you can do as a loved one is attempt to get the victim to cut off all contact with the scammer. And this can be something that's really difficult. I've done interventions before over the phone with scam victims who are so desperate for some communication that they really don't want to cut off this contact, and so gradually might be the best way. Don't check your messages today, and then maybe tomorrow you can read one message, but after that we should really reconsider deleting that account. And then finally, if your loved one won't listen to you, see if they'll listen to a trusted mentor, a different friend or family member, priest, rabbi, pastor, police officer, or another third party that has the expertise. I am now going to hand it over to our next presenter. Please, if you have questions, feel free to throw them into the chat. And I thank you so much for taking the time to listen today.
Thank you, Rebecca. And don't forget, with the chat and Q&A functions, go ahead and put your questions in now, and our panelists will be able to answer those questions at the end of our presentations. If you are not, if you are not seeing a speaker view, if you want to go up to that little view screen up on top to the right, and it will have you will have the speaker view up there for you, and you should be able to see that. That way you can see these slides in a bigger way, especially if you're on a phone and you're looking at this on your phone. And if you are on a phone, hopefully you're able to hear us fine, and you're able to follow along with the speakers, because I know we have 4 people on phones as well today. So, all right, so let's go to our next speaker. Carrie Johnson is going to be our next speaker. Carrie has directed crime prevention for the 1st District Attorney's Office of Jefferson County for the last 16 years. And he's going to start talking about some of the scams that might be going on right now that you might actually have been a part of or seen come across your phone, come across your computer, etc. So, Carrie, I'm going to turn it over to you, and thanks for coming on today.
Am I on?
Yep, you're on.
Are they seeing my screen, Steve?
Yep, I can see your screen just fine.
Okay, that sounds good. Glad to be here. First thing I'm going to do is greet you from our district attorney, who is Alexis King, and also show you a crime prevention booklet that we've got available. If you'd like to get one of these from us, I'll have my email at the end. You just email me and say I'd like one of those. I'm also happy to send you out a little pocket wallet or neck wallet so you can keep your personal financial information in that when you're out in retail centers, and that will keep you just a little bit safer. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about what I call 5 red flags of scams. If you can see this opening slide, we all know this adage, give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, teach them how to fish, you teach them for a lifetime. You know, if I just told you about the 2 or 3 scams that were prevalent today, I'm not really helping you too much, because they're going to change 3 months from now. They're going to be gone 6 months from now, replaced by another whole set of scams. So what we need to do is we need to give you some tools. And as I was listening to Rebecca, very nice presentation, Rebecca, thank you. When I saw her persuasion tactics, I said, boy, if our listeners will take Rebecca's persuasion tactics, add them to the 5 red flags that I'm going to give you in the next few minutes, you'll have a pretty good set of preparation for what might be coming down the pike. Because I want to give you 5 red flags you can lay along the side of anything that you might hear. You may have never heard of the scam before, but it sounds like it might be a scam, or it sounds fishy, or it doesn't sound comfortable. And now you put alongside of that the 5 red flags, and all of a sudden you've got a tool to use. Now, I'm not advancing, so something's going on here. All right, did you get an advanced slide, Steve?
I didn't look. You can't advance it yourself?
It's not advancing. It was
not advancing. Crumb.
Let's see.
Do you happen to have that, Tanya, that you might be able to?
I do. It's going to take me a minute to pull it up, though.
Okay.
Carrie, can you try doing a different view for your presentation?
Like what?
That's a good question. Let me just see if I can pull it up while you're doing. We had it so good in our.
Oh no, it was great. Folks, hang on just a second, if you would.
Sometimes if you go out of the slideshow mode and just pull up your PowerPoint, that'll work. That's what I have to do.
Say that again.
If you stop the slideshow and just do your PowerPoint presentation, you know, with the slides on the side, not as a slideshow. Sometimes that helps.
Are they up now?
No.
I got them on my screen. Are they up on yours?
It is not. You're probably going to have to change your view when Hazel talked about that earlier.
Yeah, I do. I've got it on screen 2. How about screen 1?
Yeah, maybe try that.
Is it up there?
It's up there, but nothing's. You're still on your first screen.
All right, let's see if we can advance.
Oh, yeah, let's try advancing now, I bet.
There
There you go.
Okay, all right, here we go. I got to speak faster now. Red flag number 1. They contacted you, you didn't contact them. That's the way it has to be, folks. You didn't ask for the email to come in. You didn't ask for the phone call to come in for the 8th time today. They are going to contact you. It's just the way the rules of scamming works. I think Rebecca alluded to it, but no government agency nor legitimate business will ever contact you by email or telephone to solve a citizen or consumer issue. The IRS will not call you. Social Security will not contact you. Law enforcement is never going to pick up the phone and call you. And businesses we're familiar with, like Kohl's or even Amazon, are never going to pick up the phone and give us a call because they've got some kind of an issue they have to solve with us. That'll take care of a lot of scams right there. Red flag number 2, they want the issue to be confidential and secret. You can't tell anyone about it. Now, there's something the scammer wants to set up. The scammer wants to set up a line of communication between themselves and their victim with no interruptions, no interference, no intrusions. They certainly don't want someone they're scamming to go down to the Little Help monthly meeting and say, wow, I've got some really good news, but I can't tell you about it. Because what are you going to say? Well, maybe you're caught up in a scam, or maybe something's going on that's not exactly right. So they will say this has to remain confidential between the two of us. And then they've got that line of communication where they can feed all kinds of lies, all kinds of fabrications, all kinds of flattering language to just build a sense of connectedness and relationship with their victim. So you hear somebody that says, I've got a secret, but I can't talk about it. I hope you'll do everything to try to bring those people out. They want urgency and immediacy. Here we go. Hi, Grandma, it's me. Oh, is that you, Billy? Yeah, Grandma, it's me, Billy, but you're not going to like this call because, Grandma, I was down in Mexico. I drank too much. I drove my rental car into a telephone pole, and now I'm in a Mexican jail. And Grandma, there are rats. And there's a group of Mexican national kids in here who don't like Americans, saying they're going to kill me. Grandma, I'm out of time. My attorney will call you. And 5 minutes later, here comes another call. Hi, I'm your grandson's attorney down here in Mexico. Did you get a call from him? Yeah, I got a call from him. Well, did he tell you about the rats? Yeah, he told me about the rats. Did he tell you there's a group of kids that want to beat him up and they want to kill him? Yeah, they told me that. Well, here's the deal, ma'am. If I can get $5,000 in the next 30 minutes, I think I can bail him out of jail. But if I can't, he's going to be stuck there for 3 months and he won't live. So right now, I need you to get up. I need you to go down to the bank, get $5,000, run down to the MoneyGram store at Walmart, and I'll give you the address where you send that off. Boy, I hope you slow down and smell the roses. Because what Rebecca talked about, when the body starts moving in crisis mode, the adrenaline starts gushing through our body. Folks, good thinking shuts down. I don't care how logical you are. I don't care, whether if you're the smartest person on the earth. We're talking about a physiological phenomena here where our body shuts down good thinking and we begin moving on autopilot without good thought. You've seen from Rebecca, you're going to see on my slide at the end, you'll see this from Hazel in just a bit. We all have lines, phone lines that you can call to get help. Slow down, take a deep breath, call one of our numbers and get some help before you would ever move. There's not much to say about red flag number 4. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. Been true since the days of our grandparents and the Great Depression, and it is just as true today. So I'm going to move right past that. Finally, number 5, they want their money right away. Let's go get it. Come on, let's move. And so the best way in today's world is they send you down to Target, to Walmart, to King Soopers, to go buy a gift card. A lot of times it's a Google Play gift card because older adults aren't very familiar with Google Play gift cards. And then they'll say, come on back home, rub off the silver paint up there in the right-hand corner. You'll see it on the slide. Give us the secret number and all of the fees for what we need will be taken care of. We live in an amazing world, folks. You scratch off that number and you read that off to a scammer that is calling you from Singapore or India or Nigeria or Jamaica, doesn't matter. They can strip the money right off that card. It's gone forever and you'll never see it again. So we don't want you buying gift cards. We want you to kind of remember this little phrase. Gift cards are for gifts, not to make a payment. I'm going to say it a second time. Gift cards are for gifts, not to make a payment. Now, let me give you a couple pieces of federal law too, just to kind of give you a little heads up. Federal law number 1, you cannot win a foreign lottery, prize, or sweepstakes. No Mexican lottery, no lottery from Spain, no lottery from Canada. How many of you remember the Irish sweepstakes? They've gone bankrupt, if you can believe that. But if they were around today, they would be illegal. You can't win a prize or lottery from another country. Federal law number 2, if you should genuinely win a prize, lottery, or sweepstakes, you never have to pay a penny up front to get what you've won. Now, somewhere along the line, you're going to have to report to the IRS and you're going to have to make good with them. But that's an issue only you and the IRS can actually handle. So, you know, you get that call that says you won a 5-day, 4-night cruise in the Bahamas, but we need a $600 boarding fee. That's illegal. If they say I've won $29.95 and they need a stamp to send out the check, that's illegal. No money up front. Now, I'm going to give you a couple of practical tips, and then we'll move on to our next speaker. I want to encourage you to get a robotic call blocker. Here's the deal. Scammers go to one of these large information bureaus here in the United States or somewhere else in the world, and they buy a list of names. They may say, I want to buy a list of names of all older adults, 60 and older in Colorado. I want their name and their phone number. And then they take those phone numbers and they program them into a computer that begins making calls. It is important to know scammers use computers to make calls. A robotic call blocker application stops computer-generated calls from ringing to your telephone. Now, if you want to do a Google search and you put in there robotic call blocker, you'll have a whole list of companies that offer these come up. One will be Truecaller, which happens to be free. One will be RoboKiller, but the one I really like is Nomo Robo. Came about from a contest the federal government sponsored 8 years ago, and they went out to all those IT people who are experts and said, we'll give $500,000 to anyone that can come up with an application that will recognize a computer-generated call when it comes into a telephone. 2 guys won. They won $500,000. The government kept their product for 5 years, and then it got released into the commercial market. And now it is available as a product known as Nomo Robo. You download it as an application. The cost to download it is $25. And then there's a cost of $1.99 per month. And for that, Nomo Robo stops and blocks every computer-generated call that is coming into your telephone. Remember I said scammers make calls by computer-generated mechanisms? Those calls coming in from scammers will now be blocked. Now, sometimes I get the question, well, there's a call or two I get that are important that come in by computer, and I don't want them blocked. What do I do about that? Well, here's my suggestion. I have Kaiser. Kaiser always makes a computer-generated call to remind me of my appointments. I picked up the phone. I called Kaiser. I said, I've got a robotic call blocker on my phone. Can you text me a reminder instead of calling me? And they said, no problem. And that's how I get my reminders at this point in time. All right, the second thing I'd like you to do is I'd like you to try Duckduckgo as a search engine. Now, if you were going to try to find out about Wisconsin cheese, and I asked you in a general sense, you'd say, oh, I do a Google search, because 90% of the people in the United States use Google. Google's a search engine. It's just a mechanism on a computer that when you type in Wisconsin cheese, it goes out into the internet world, finds all the information about Wisconsin cheese, and brings it back to your computer. There are lots of search engines, but DuckDuckGo has some features to it that adds a real measure of safety with scammers and those that might be trying to intercept your transmissions. First of all, DuckDuckGo hides your internet protocol address, so you are anonymous online. If someone were to somehow break into your transmission, they'd have no idea where it's coming from, what computer it's coming from, or who's involved online. What a great way to tap into your bank account, right? Secondly, DuckDuckGo encrypts everything. They break in, they're just going to find gibberish from the moment you type in Wisconsin cheese. All the searches that come back, everything is encrypted. It's free. We all like that. Because you're anonymous, there are no pop-ups. How many times have you done a search? You're searching for Western boots. It's the stock shows here, and you want to, go in style on Saturday. And so you do a search for Western boots. You look over some things. You don't buy anything. But a little while later, here comes some pop-ups on Western boots. That's because your search was tracked by what we call cookies, and now they led back to your computer saying you're interested in Western boots, and up comes a pop-up on your screen. Well, that's not good. And it's not good because over the holidays, the government estimated that there were 18,000 fake websites set up by scammers. Now, a pop-up comes up from a scammer. They're advertising a product you're interested in, but oh my gosh, the price of it is so much less than anywhere else. And these websites, by the way, they look fantastic. You'd never know by looking at the opening page. So all of a sudden you're going to buy your product from there, and all you've done is given your credit card number or your bank information to the scammer that runs that website, and pretty soon you're going to find fraudulent charges on those financial instruments. And then I like the fact that search results are listed randomly and objectively. Whatever you get at the top of your Google search, they've paid Google to be at the top of that search. I like the fact that DuckDuckGo just brings it back to your computer randomly. I'm not influenced by who's at the top, who's in the middle, who's at the bottom. I can make up my own mind about the information that they've provided. Give DuckDuckGo a try. All right, I'm going to stop there because we got Hazel Hackers coming up, and Hazel is just a wonderful speaker you'll want to pay attention to. There's my information. I'd love for you to give me a call. And if you would like, again, our fraud handbook, or you'd like a neck wallet, I prefer that you email me. Kind of makes it a little easier. csjohnso@jeffco.us. I love a little help. Thanks for the opportunity of presenting today.
Thank you so much, Kerry. I appreciate that. If you can stop your share, that'll be great. I do want to reiterate that we are recording this, and it's going to be on our website for anybody to go and see. And we will also email this to folks that have provided us their emails when in the registration part of this. So I think we should be in good shape. So please know that if you've missed anything, you can still get it either on our website or through email. So if you didn't get Carrie's information, or you didn't get Rebecca's or Hazel's, we will have that for everybody moving forward, so that you didn't miss anything. So don't worry about missing something, and we'll take it from there. So the next person we're going to invite on our last presenter today, and by the way, keep the questions coming. I see you in the chat boxes, and we will ask those questions at the end. So stay tuned for those. And if you do have questions, please use the Q&A or the chat. And if those aren't working for you, we'll simply let people raise their hands, and we'll let you ask a live question. So Hazel Hackers is our last presenter. Hazel did such a great job about a year ago when she presented on scams and frauds that we couldn't have this opportunity and not ask her to come back again. She is a wealth of information. She's got over 30 years of doing this kind of stuff. She's with the Colorado Bureau of Investigation and Department of Public Safety. She is actually in the victim unit, so she helps victims that have been taken advantage of, and she'll tell you a little bit about that as well. So Hazel, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you so much for being a part of our presentation today.
Sure, thanks, Steve. So can you see my screen?
Yep.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so as Steve said, I'm Hazel. I work with the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, and I'm going to talk to you now that we've learned why people are more vulnerable and what the red flags are for scams. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what are you going to do now. If you've been a victim of a scam or you know someone who's been a victim of a scam, what are going to be your first steps? I know that some of you are on the phone and can't see the screen, but you will get a handout from a little help that has all these slides on it, so you don't have to worry about really quickly writing down numbers or websites or anything. You will get that handout. So the first thing that we advise people to do when you have been a victim of a scam or you know someone who's been a victim of a scam is stop contacting them. Stop all contact with them. If they're calling you, don't answer. Block the calls. If you've been calling them, stop calling. This is so important. What the scammers want is to continue having contact with you. So one of the things that we hear all the time, and I work in a law enforcement agency, so we always hear, I'm not going to stop talking to them. I'm keeping them on the line. We can do a sting and we can get them. I want to be a part of that. It's very exciting, but we're never going to use you to do a sting. It's just not going to happen. We don't use citizens in that way. If there's a sting to set up, we'll do it with law enforcement officers. So we just want you to be safe and stop. But there are things that you can do to help us. And a lot of that is gathering the information that will help us follow up. So any phone numbers that they used to call you, where they wanted you to send the money and how they wanted you to send it. Did they want cash? Did they want gift cards? Did they want you to wire money to them? Did they want you to use some virtual form of currency like a Bitcoin ATM machine or Zelle or Venmo, those kinds of things? Was there anything distinctive about that caller? Now, people feel really bad about saying, oh, they had an accent, but that really helps us. It helps us to know. Or you might say, you know what, they kind of sounded like they weren't really human. Maybe it sounded like they were a little robotic. So maybe you were talking to someone who wasn't real, who was using some technology. Did they sound like they were really far away? Those are all things that may seem minor, but they're really, really important. And the other one is, did they give you a number and when you tried to call it back, you couldn't reach them? That's a really good thing for us to know. Those are all things that you can do rather than a sting that you can do that will help us figure out who's scamming. So after you cut off all contact with them, I will tell you, normally we say your first call is to the police. And if your house got broken into or something else happened, we would say that very same thing. Your first call is to the police. But if you were physically injured, we'd tell you to race to get to the emergency room first and call the police from there. So this is what we tell you about scams. Your first call should be to your financial institutions, to your bank, to your credit card companies, whoever it was that was involved in that transaction, because you have to stop the bleeding. The longer that they have access to your bank account or to your credit card, the more damage they're going to do. And if they think that you're on to them and that you're going to stop giving them money, they're going to take as much as they can before you can. So right away, contact your financial institutions. But then your very next call should be to your local law enforcement agency, whether that's the police or the sheriff. Call your local law enforcement agency. But here's the tip. If you tell the dispatcher, at your local law enforcement agency that you've been a victim of a scam, they're going to tell you to call social services or to call the attorney general or to call somebody else. They're not going to take a report. You want to use language they understand. You want to tell them it's fraud or identity theft. That way you're going to get a report, or you may get a detective from the fraud unit. But saying it's a scam, you're not going to get it. Years and years ago, we used to tell people who were being physically abused, don't report that you're being abused, report that you're being assaulted. And it's the same thing here with the scam. Use the language that's going to get you the report that you need. And then we want you to report to us here at the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. And there's a lot of reasons we want you to do that. One is that our victim assistance team is amazing at getting you the support and the services that you need, explaining what just happened to you, and helping you through the process of making sure that you're safe and protected. So please give us a call. The other thing is that we do track what's going on in the world of scams. And so we want to make sure that we know what happened to you and how it happened. And then we'd like you to consider reporting to places like the Federal Trade Commission, the FBI, your local district attorney. Like if you live in Jefferson County, you want to call Carrie, or the Colorado Attorney General in some cases. So I want to give you just a little bit of information about what happens if you try to report to any of these places. Let me start out by saying most of these are websites because the world has gone virtual. However, if you are not comfortable going to a website, or if you don't have the ability to go to a website, that's one of the reasons we want you to call us, because our victim advocates will go to that website for you. They'll file that report for you, and they'll get a paper copy to you. So just be aware that while I might be giving you websites, it's not your only option. So the Federal Trade Commission does keep statistics on fraud. And for those of you who have the screen, you'll see this is what their Stop Fraud website looks like. And there's a button right there that says report fraud. You can see the arrow pointing to it. And that's what you would click to file it. It's really important to understand the Federal Trade Commission does not investigate crime. They keep statistics on crime. So don't expect an investigation from that. But just to let you know, it's a great place to report because they do have that information available so that it can be given to others. Okay. The next one is if it was a cybercrime. So if they contacted you by email or by a text message, or if you went to a website to purchase something and that was where the scam occurred, then the Federal Bureau of Investigation has an Internet Crime Complaint Center, and they also like you to file a report with them. For those of you who have a screen, again, you can see it's a pretty simple bright red button that says file a complaint. The benefit of reporting to them, also with those, do not expect a call back. Chances are you're not going to get a call back from the FBI. They do have certain criteria for an investigation, and it's a very high dollar amount that has to be lost before they'll call you back. However, they do share all of the complaints with law enforcement. So we can see what's going on across the nation, and we can see what's going on here in Colorado as far as cybercrimes through their site. It's really, really valuable for us to be able to know what's going on so that when you call us, we can answer your questions a little bit better. Here in Colorado, our Attorney General's office has a great program. Rebecca talked a little bit about the partnership with AARP, but you can also file a complaint online with the Attorney General. And again, for those of you who have the screen view, you can see where you can file the complaint. It is especially helpful to file with the Attorney General's office if you have a home repair fraud case, or if you've gotten caught up in one of the timeshare scams, or if you feel like somebody is calling you trying to collect a debt that is not yours. Those are great places to report to them. Again, call us at CBI as well, and we can help you. Actually, sometimes when you call the Attorney General's office, one of the options to report fraud will get you right to us anyway. And so this is the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. So our advocates will help you with reporting it. They'll come up with some steps that you need to do to follow up. We'll help you come up with an action plan. And we share information with the community and other law enforcement agencies, not your name, but we share information about, hey, these are the kinds of scams that we're seeing going on now. You can reach us through our 24-hour number. We have a victim support line, and you can email us as well. So there's a lot of ways to get a hold of us. If you go to our website, there's a lot of options that you will have when you're on there. You can see what the current scams are. You can see what's going on in identity theft right now. So there's a lot of things that you can see. You'll also see information on missing persons and cold case and a couple of other things, but you'll see a lot on there about scams. So there's other things that you can do. One of the things is protect yourself from future contact. The phone blocker that Carrie talked about, that's great. Block the call or the text number that they're calling you from. Also report spam if it's come through your email. One of the things that I will tell you about the blocking system, I think somebody asked a question is, are there any that are for free? There are some that are free, and depending on who your carrier is, your cell phone carrier, they may be able to provide it for you as part of your package for free. So talk to them. But the most important thing is do not contact that scammer again. It's really tempting to call them. It's really tempting to tell them, you know, they're a scammer. You're onto them. You've reported them. The cops are going to come and get you. Don't do it. Every time you talk to them, every time you communicate with them, they're getting another hook into you. So just don't do it. If you're getting mail from them, just write refused on the letter and send it back. Don't even open it. And then notify the law enforcement agency you're working with, whether that's your local agency or CBI, anytime that they continue to try to get a hold of you. So if they continue to call you, if they continue to text you, if they continue to email you, if they choose a different number to call you because you blocked their number, always report that to your law enforcement agency. And then there's just a couple of other things that you can do to protect yourself. I'm kind of going through this rather quickly because I want to leave plenty of time for questions, and I know we're getting late there. So get your credit report. The easiest way to do that is through annualcreditreport.com, but you have a handout that also has some phone numbers on it. You want to consider a fraud alert or a credit freeze. And again, that information is in your handout because, you know, I think it's really important to think about the fact that maybe they didn't get enough information to steal your credit, but maybe they have it, and maybe they did. Maybe they were able to get something you don't even remember giving them. So consider those things. They're very, very helpful to protect you. For those of you who have family members out of state, there's a couple of different ways. Every state handles this differently. Not every state has the kind of support for fraud victims that Colorado does. And in some places, it can be very challenging to find. So one of the things that I would ask you to consider is call us at CBI, and we will help you find the right person in the state where your loved one or your family member is. And there's also another great out-of-state resource, which is the Identity Theft Resource Center. And that phone number is on your screen, and it will be in your handouts as well. And then I think this is the most important thing that you can do. Take care of yourself. You know, don't forget that you're there too, and you're important, and you need to practice some self-care and some self-love and understand these criminals are good. This is their job. This is what they do. If they were able to perpetrate a scam, I would say perpetrate a crime, you need to take care of yourself because you have been a victim. And be kind to yourself. Your self-talk needs to be kind. So I'm giving you our contact information and a little bit of information about how to get a hold of us here and how to get a hold of me. again, for those of you who are on the phone or just can't write as quickly as I'm skipping through these slides, it will all be in your handouts. And so now I think we're just going to go to questions. And thank you so much. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm just turning it back to you, Steve.
Thanks so much, Hazel. I really appreciate your help and the help of everybody today. We do have some questions in our chat and Q&A. Carrie, I know you got to go, but there were two that were directed to you. And I think we talked, one, it was about the, getting those robocall. Some of those are free that you can get for the robocalls. And Hal wanted to know a robotic call blocker that's free. I think, Carrie, that is correct, right? And what would be a good free robocall blocker?
The one that is free that I know of is Truecaller. And Truecaller is pretty good. I don't think it's quite as good as Normal Robo, but it's free. The other question that I got is, what if I have a plug in the wall phone? There's still a robotic call blocker, but you'll need to go down to Target or Walmart. You buy a black box. You plug your phone into that, plug the black box into the wall, and it acts to block computer-generated calls, just like the application that's downloaded to a phone.
Perfect. Thank you. I know, Carrie, you got to get going here, so we'll turn you loose. Rebecca, did you have anything else you wanted to add real quick with what everybody else said before you had to go too? And then I'm going to keep Hazel around to answer some of the questions.
I didn't see any questions in the chat for me, so if anyone does have questions for me, you should have the Elder Watch information. Just ask for Rebecca and they'll find me. Thank you all so much. This was really a really fun presentation. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, Rebecca. So Rebecca and Carrie do have to get going to other appointments, so I'm going to let them sign off. But Hazel, there's a bunch of questions coming in on the Q&A now. One person wanted to know, Beverly wanted to know, where do I report email spam?
Oh, okay. So there's a couple of ways to report email spam. If it's just spam, or you know it's a scam and you're not going to respond to it, when you're in your email, you should have a button at the top that says report scam or report spam. Usually it's something like a red button or an exclamation point or something like that. You click on that, and then it's probably going to have a pop-up that says, do you just want to report spam, or do you also want to unsubscribe? Just unsubscribe to it, just get out and report it as spam. That's how you report it within your email. You may have to report the same email address multiple times. Some are really, really good at figuring out right away, but some of the systems you have to report it 3 or 4 times, and then they'll know, and then they'll start putting them in your spam box right away, so they don't even come to your inbox. If you have an email that you believe is a scam and you want to report it, you can send it to me. You'll have our emails in the handouts. You can send it to us and then report it as spam. But send it to us first. That way we can look at it. We can see what's going on with it. And it helps us educate the officers as well as others about what is happening in your mailbox. I have probably about 10 people who send me 15 or 20 spams a week that they've gotten. And it's really helpful. It really helps us know exactly what's happening right away as soon as it's out there in your inbox. Every once in a blue moon, we'll see something that we've never seen before, and it's really, really helpful. So you can just send it to us, but the big important thing is don't open it. Don't click on any links. Don't open any attachments. And after you sent it to us at CBI, go ahead and delete it or send it to spam.
Perfect. Thank you, Hazel.
Steve?
Yeah.
Did you see Jen Gordon? I'm gonna go ahead and see if she can unmute. She did have a question. She did raise her hand, so I was gonna try to have her speak.
Okay, go. Sure, Jen.
Oh yeah, hi. So I was just wanting you to repeat the information about the oh gosh, what was it now? The credit report and checking your credit. You'd mentioned to see if there were things on there, and I didn't grab that fast enough.
Sure. Thank you, Jen. The easiest way to do it is to go to annualcreditreport.com. If you Google annualcreditreport.com, it's not going to be the first one that comes up. There's a whole bunch that are just scammers and people who are just not doing a great job coming up first. So you want to make sure you're at annualcreditreport.com. And then you're going to see a button. It's really big. It's at the top. It's in the middle. It's all over the place. This says get your report now. There's one form that you fill out online, and then it will get you all 3 credit reports. What you're looking for on that credit report is accuracy. Do you recognize everything that's on there? Are there social security numbers on there that are not yours? Are there names on there that have no relation to you whatsoever? And then are there credit accounts that you don't know anything about? If any of those things are happening, you want to call us right away, and then we can walk you through the process of reporting that to the credit reporting bureaus, getting that corrected, and filing identity theft reports if we can figure out who's been using your credit. Did that help, Jen?
Can you unmute Jen?
Okay, sorry. Tell us again where we report it if we see information on there that doesn't look accurate.
Yeah, go ahead and call us here at the CBI. And you will have all of our contact information in your handouts.
I'm not sure if I got handouts.
I think you all will at the end. Is that right, Tanya?
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, that is correct. Everyone will be getting an email at the end with handouts, the presentations, the video of this entire presentation.
Yeah, good. I've got another one here from Candy. She said, I knew I was a victim of fraud. My bank jumped on helping when I came asking for $6,000 in money orders. They talked to me, they talked to the city police and sent me to the main office. Met with police who said there was nothing they could do or nothing she could do. I was afraid for my physical safety and wanted to hire a person to be there when the fraud people came. I was told there is nothing I could do to report the fraud. Is it too late? Is what came with that.
Okay. How long ago did it happen?
She didn't say.
Yeah.
If you're out there, Candy, if you're still on, Candy, you want to raise your hand. We can put you on and talk to Hazel so she can help you through that if you want. Or if, yeah, go ahead.
Oh,
there we go. Go ahead and unmute yourself, Candy.
Hi, that was 3 months ago is when that happened. And I think part of the issue is that it was a moving scam where they gave an estimate of 5,000, arrived up to 3, and then to deliver my furniture, either they were going to deliver my furniture after I paid $6,000 additional, in addition to everything else, or they were going to take the furniture and dump it in a dump that night. So, I mean, that's kind of what I told the police and what I've told everybody. I think that I have found out since then that because it is a moving from a state to a state, that there's no place really I can report that. There's no place I can have this show against the company. Is that correct?
I actually don't think that's correct. I think that you should be able to report that in the jurisdiction in which you live. But I mean, it may be too late for that at this point. You could certainly report that to the Attorney General's office. There's also the Department of Regulatory Agencies, which oversees them, and it can be reported there so that it goes against them. The other thing is that the Better Business Bureau, there is a local Better Business Bureau, and that business may not be listed with them, but it's going to be listed in whatever city they originated in, or whatever state they originated in, and it will be listed. The Better Business Bureau can help you connect with the US version, you know, that kind of covers everybody. I would also report it to the Federal Trade Commission. just to make sure that they have that information out there. But I definitely think there are some ways to report them. And Candy, if you'd like to give our victim assistance team a call, I think that we could help you with making sure that that gets reported. Though now I'm curious, did you pay them?
Yes, I paid them because either that or everything I own would be dumped that night and I would never receive it,
Yep.
according to them. So I really appreciate your help. Thank you. I will follow through on all of this.
Well,
I
I'm
feel
very
better
sorry
if
that that
it were
happened.
reported. I just would feel better if it were reported for the sake of other people they're going to scam. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that with us. I'm sorry that happened to you.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you. And I see that Lee put in a comment that I thought was rather pertinent about being aware that scammers will sometimes start out with small dollar amounts, and if successful, will continue to hit you up for money over and over again. Hazel, can you speak to that a little bit? How it's kind of like when you see on your credit card, people will charge $5, and if you don't notice it, all of a sudden it's $5,000 the next month.
Yeah, I think that one of the things the scammers do is hit you up for small amounts that you think are reasonable. You know, it might be reasonable to pay, you know, let's say that you're in a romance scam and they're telling you, you know, I just need 20 bucks for this. It's not that much. And you're thinking, yeah, it's not that much. And then the next time they ask you for $50, well, that's not that much either. Pretty soon they're asking you for thousands of dollars. It's just a way that the scammers kind of wheedle their way in. It's not uncommon in the marketing world either. You know, if you go to your favorite coffee shop and the coffee is 10 cents more expensive this month than it was last month, you're not going to notice it as much. And then when you look at it at the end of the year, it's $2 more expensive than it was. And same with the grocery store. That's just a tactic. The criminals use that same tactic and they do the same thing. So they're just trying to, they're feeling you out, first of all, to see where your line is. You know, are you going to draw the line at $100 or are you going to keep giving? So it's just part of their tactic, and it does happen. That's why we tell you, stop talking to them.
You know, and we never talked about romance scams, and I had no idea until recently how big romance scams are in terms of especially in this social, you know, when we've got this social dilemma going on where we can't talk to people and people are lonelier than ever. Those romance scandals are absolutely awful. Folks, I think we're done with the questions and we're not 10 minutes past. So I think we're going to conclude the session. Again, Tanya will get everything out in an email to everybody. We do appreciate everybody who took part today. We like your questions. Thank you so much. This has been great. I will say, if folks, if you know of, if you've got other topics you'd like to hear from us, please email us back. Let Tanya or I know that that you've got some other topics you'd like to hear about, and we'd love to